Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
There's a new calcium supplement that could finally make a real difference for your bones. And it's nothing like what's in your cabinet right now. Hi everyone, I'm Barbara and this is Age Better. Welcome to all of our new listeners and thank you everyone for tuning in again. Listen, bone health is one of my biggest passions and I've been working with the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation for over 10 years because I want all of us to stay strong, mobile, and independent forever. The truth is, there's been almost no real innovation in bone health supplements in decades. Most calcium products are kind of these huge pills made from synthetics the body barely absorbs, or those sugary gummies loaded with corn syrup. And that's why today's episode really matters. My guest, Dr. Jennifer Hahn, is a board-certified clinical pharmacist with a background in functional medicine and nutrition. And here's her backstory. Just 2 months after giving birth, she fractured her back and was diagnosed with a very rare condition called pregnancy lactation osteoporosis. And that diagnosis, that moment, changed everything. Dr. Hahn teamed up with Adrian Bitar, a Stanford PhD in food sciences, to create Scene Nutrition, the first calcium chew made entirely from real food. No added sugar, no fillers, no preservatives, no synthetics. So today you'll learn why most supplements aren't really doing your bones any favors, what makes real food calcium different, and how to start protecting your bones right now. So check the show notes for more information about Dr. Hahn, Dr. Bitar, and Scene Nutrition. Okay, everyone, get ready to age better. Hey, Dr. Hahn, welcome to Age Better.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited about talking about your product, about your company, how you started it, your background today. So let's just talk about your background for starters. So clinical pharmacy, functional medicine, nutrition. How did this all come together to build your career?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I got my bachelor's in science in pharmacological chemistry at UC San Diego. So I was already in that chemistry world, thinking about how things come together, how medications are made. And that's when I pursued my doctorate of pharmacy at UC San Diego as well. And then I went into the whole path of residency. I did my first year at Tufts Medical Center and my second year with the Veterans Affairs Health System in LA. It was only during those residency training years where I really figured out what I want to do with pharmacy, right? Because I think most of us think that pharmacist equals the retail pharmacist that you see at like CVS and Target and things like that. But it's cool because pharmacists can do a whole bunch of different things. And so I realized that my passion is seeing patients one-on-one in the outpatient setting. And so that's when I specialized in ambulatory care pharmacy, and I'm board certified in ambulatory care. And I saw patients for chronic conditions like diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain. That's one of my specialties as well. And so I practiced in this way. It's called a collaborative practice, where patients would see their provider. They would be diagnosed with whatever chronic condition. And then the provider would refer the patients to me so that I could select the best pharmacotherapy for that patient for whatever that chronic condition is. And so I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's important for people to know that pharmacists play a key role in the interdisciplinary team setting, and that's the setting that I was practicing in.
I have to be honest with you. I have to stop you.
Yeah.
I had no idea such a role existed. In all of my years of living and seeing doctors and having a wonderful PCP of many, many years, I never knew that was a role in healthcare.
Yeah, it's something that just recently got started, recently as in like the last 10, 15 years. Now it's more common to see pharmacists in the ambulatory care setting. So whether that be in your primary care clinic or your women's health clinic or any outpatient clinic, it's now more typical to see a pharmacist there. And so I got all my training in California, and in California, we're considered advanced practice practitioners. And because of the board certification, when I saw patients, I was able to prescribe medication, order labs, and follow these patients and have a panel and collaborate with my provider so I could update them like, hey, with this patient, I started this medication for these reasons, and now I'm going to be following them every 2
And
weeks.
then what about the functional medicine aspect of your mix of skills?
Yes. So, in seeing patients with chronic conditions, I found that a majority of our visits were centered around, okay, what do you eat in a day? What does your lifestyle look like? In addition to talking about medications. And so I really realized that I need to dig deep into nutrition. And so I received functional medicine training to understand root causes and really understand how food can be medicine in terms of prevention.
Really incredible. You are incredible. So you have a
Oh, thank you.
backstory here. We will get to your company and your product, which is amazing, and I'm a huge fan, which is why I invited you to come on the show. But you do have a backstory, which led you to where you are today. You had a baby,
Mhm.
and then 2 months later, what happened?
Yeah, my life basically changed at that point. I was 29 years old. I was 2 months postpartum, breastfeeding in the thick of COVID. And I rolled off a yoga ball and started to have this back pain that's inexplicable, not normal. It hurt to take deep breaths. I knew something was wrong. And so thankfully, I got imaging pretty quickly and they found multiple spinal fractures in my vertebra. And that led to a whole host of tests and referrals to see why a otherwise healthy 30-year-old woman would have spinal fractures from just rolling off a yoga ball.
Right.
And so I was later diagnosed with a rare form of osteoporosis called pregnancy lactation osteoporosis. And this is a really rare form of osteoporosis, so I don't want women to think that they're at risk of this, but it just highlights the fact how taxing breastfeeding and even pregnancy can be on the skeleton, especially if you're not intentional about the nutrients that you're consuming. And so that's when my life changed. I thought I was going to have a lot more kids and a big family, but this happened. And then I kind of pivoted professionally as well and really dug into osteoporosis and started to pay attention to my bones.
Yes. And well, of course, that osteoporosis, bone health is very near and dear to my heart. And I find that almost all conversations that I have on this show very often lead to bone health and what
Yeah.
can we do to improve our bone health throughout our lifespan.
Yeah.
So another reason why I wanted to have you on the show, of course, and you also, my connection to the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation, and then your connection as well. You're
Mhm.
on a group called CAR
Mhm.
and advisors to BHOF. So it's a wonderful connection that we both
Yeah.
share. How did that experience, and then, of course, your diagnosis of osteoporosis at a very young age, a very rare form, of course, how did that change how you view bone health?
I would say it didn't change how I viewed bone health. That was the first time I ever viewed bone health,
Yeah, even thought
honestly.
about it, right?
Yeah,
hmm
because we go about our day not thinking about our bones or our skeletons at all.
Until you break something.
Until you break something, right? And so that's when I first started to really realize, oh my gosh, we're laying down the most bone in our lives when we're adolescents, teenagers, going into our 20s. That's when we're laying down bone the fastest. If we aren't paying attention to bone health and nutrition and exercise during those years, you kind of miss out on depositing enough nutrition in your bone bank. And so that's something I wish I knew growing up. I would have paid a lot more attention, maybe drank more milk, started to do more impact or resistance training earlier on. But I also view it as a blessing in disguise because, yes, I was young when I was diagnosed, but that also leaves a lot more time for me to work on my bone health from now on.
Right. That's how I feel about it as well. It was a wake-up call from me at 50, had
Yeah.
gone through menopause and just fell walking my dog and broke my arm. Shouldn't have, but then that's when I had my first bone density test and realized that I had low bone density already. And that was a wake-up call and a call to action. And I did
Mhm.
take action, thank goodness. And so all these years later, I'm still okay. Still in
Yay.
low bone density. Okay, so at some point, you met Adrienne Bitar, and who
Mhm.
eventually became your partner in your business, which you will share with us soon. So how did you connect and when did you realize that the two of you should do this?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So we are both here in upstate New York, where Cornell University is. It's hard to make friends when you're in your mid-30s, but we both have children that are around the same age. She has 2 daughters, I have 1 daughter, and they just started to play together at the park. And so naturally we started to talk, and we quickly found out that we have a lot of commonality. So she and I are both originally from the Bay Area. Both of our husbands are faculty here at Cornell. That's why we've moved to Ithaca from California. We're both moms of daughters. And we were friends for a long time before we even started to talk about what we do professionally, which is a whole nother story. But once we started to talk about what we do professionally and what we're passionate about, we realized there's kind of an interesting intersection that's not common. So I have the personal story with osteoporosis, the medication kind of insight, and Adrienne received her PhD at Stanford and teaches food studies here at Cornell. So she has the food aspect, and we really started to talk about, well, food first is kind of our values in life and what we teach and educate with. So what if we bring those values to osteoporosis, something that's very personal for me and also very personal for Adrienne?
Yeah, yes, I know. I also read that her mother has osteoporosis, and
Mhm.
so it is very personal for her as it is for you. So
Yes.
when you both looked at the supplement aisle in the store, what stood out to you as wrong?
Yeah, I
Like,
like how you put it in
or kind of
quotations.
need some change?
Oh my God. This calcium supplement aisle needed a big upgrade. There hasn't been much innovation in the calcium supplement industry for, I would say, 10 to 20 years. So I kind of go at it from 2 buckets. The first bucket being a clinical pharmacist, right? When I'm walking down the supplement aisle, a lot of the disadvantages, I'll say, with the current calcium supplements on the market is that they're providing calcium in silo. So most of these are just calcium carbonate or just calcium citrate. And they're also synthetic. So naturally, there's a lot of factors that go into how well we absorb calcium. And because it's synthetic, it makes it more difficult to absorb.
Okay.
So that's kind of from the clinical pharmacist aspect, but from the patient aspect too, I did everything that probably you did and most women do when they're first diagnosed. I took calcium carbonate and it was really unpleasant. And it was these huge horse pills that you had to gag down. And then I switched over to calcium citrate because I'm like, maybe this will be better because they're smaller pills. But then you have to swallow more at a time to get your dose. And so I went through all of that as a patient. And I realized I'm 30. Osteoporosis is a lifelong commitment and a chronic condition. I don't want to be swallowing these synthetic pills that I know aren't ideal for me for the next 50, 60 years of my life.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too. But why is it so important that you created something that is made with real food instead of the synthetic
Hmm.
formulation?
Yeah, it's a good point because not all vitamins and minerals are necessarily best from food. Like you can get vitamin D synthetically, and that's perfectly fine. But with calcium, that's not the case. Food is the ideal source of calcium because when calcium is present in a food, for example, in milk, it's providing a whole host of other nutrients that are needed for appropriate utilization of that calcium to bone. So food is a complete calcium source. And so that's why it was essential for us to only use food ingredients. And our calcium chew, we only source our calcium and the minerals from milk. We don't tinker with it. We just use the milk minerals and put that in a format that's convenient and delicious to take.
So how does the body absorb calcium from real food versus the synthetic supplements that we were just talking about? How is it different?
Yeah, so it's different in a couple of ways. So we have to think about both the absorption of calcium and then the utilization of calcium. So synthetic calcium supplements like calcium carbonate, calcium citrate, lactate, whatever, calcium is bound to that salt. And what happens is that after you take that pill, that calcium needs to dissociate from that salt in your gut. And then after it's dissociated, you have free calcium or soluble calcium that then gets absorbed in your small intestine. So you can see that there's a lot of factors that need to go in place for that free calcium to be dissociated and then absorbed. When we're looking at calcium from milk, for example, the calcium in milk is provided in forms that are already that free calcium. So it doesn't need to dissociate from anything. It's already providing to your body in the form that your body uses naturally. Does that make sense?
It does. But what if someone is lactose intolerant? Does this affect them? Does this upset their stomachs?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I'm lactose intolerant. And so this was a key factor in formulating our chews. We know that milk or dairy is an excellent source of calcium. So we knew we wanted to use that, but we wanted it to be in a form so those with lactose intolerance can appropriately digest it. So the way that we do it is that we take milk and then remove all of the liquid fat and almost all of the lactose so that you're just left with the minerals of milk. And so each chew has about 1/4 gram of lactose, which is incredibly small. Studies show that even if you're lactose intolerant, you could consume up to 12 grams of lactose in one sitting. So this is just a fraction of what you can consume. And so
That's amazing.
it's completely safe.
So what are the other ingredients in a one single chew? And how many do you take a day and how much calcium do you get? Give us a little more detail about your company.
Yeah.
I realize we haven't really mentioned it. I think you mentioned it in reference. Tell us about the name of your company and right, go ahead.
This is a good idea. Yeah. So our company is called Seen Nutrition.
Seen as an SEEN. And by the way, everyone, there will be a link to get more information in the show notes below.
Yeah, we're called Seen Nutrition. Just a little note about that. We call ourselves Seen Nutrition because we want women to feel seen in all stages of life, not just when you're in your 20s and when you're in your prime, quote unquote. We want you to feel seen when you're postpartum, maybe when you're going through menopause and postmenopause. And so that's where Seen comes from. And our value is food first. So one of our chews has 500 milligrams of dietary calcium, again from milk. And because we use milk, it also has phosphorus, magnesium, copper, iron, and zinc in the ratios that are naturally present in milk. And by the way, mimic the ratios present in bone. So that's another reason why milk is such a great source of calcium because of the other things related to its components. And then we also have vitamin D from mushrooms because we know that vitamin D helps with calcium absorption. Vitamin D is hard to get from foods, right?
Yes.
So that's why a lot of us supplement, which is completely fine. And we wanted to find a food source of vitamin D, and mushrooms are an excellent source of vitamin D. So that's where we get our vitamin D from. And then we also have a little bit of protein also from milk because studies have shown that protein can enhance the absorption of dietary calcium. So we only have organic dates, milk minerals, the milk protein. We have almonds in there for a little bit of
Yeah, they're
crunch.
delicious.
Yeah.
My favorite foods all together in
thank
one
you.
little cute square cube. It's really
Yeah.
ingenious. When I first talked with you about this, I told you, I said, this is an unbelievable invention
Thank you.
in the space of bone health. That you're right, there really have been no new things, no new products, no innovation to speak of.
No.
And it's really unique. And I applaud you and Adrienne so much about this. And so,
Thank you, Barbara.
how many should people take a day of your choose? Because it's 500.
Mm-hmm.
How many?
So that really can vary person to person. But when we look at population health data, this is probably outdated, but population health data says that the average American woman consumes about 820 milligrams of calcium from food. So if that's the case, then you just need one chew to get you to your target. But sometimes we're traveling and we're busy and we're not eating all the nutritious foods in a day. And if that's the case, then you can have 2 chews a day. But we just recommend that you separate it by at least 3 hours to maximize that absorption, because your body best absorbs at doses of 500 milligrams.
And the amount of vitamin D that you have in each cube is really not enough vitamin D, correct? I mean, we probably still need to supplement.
Yeah, we get that question all the time. So the vitamin D present in our chew, we have 400 IUs.
Yeah, okay.
That's just the appropriate amount to help the calcium be absorbed. It's
Perfect.
not enough for like standalone vitamin D supplementation.
Yeah, all the other reasons that I myself take between 2,500 and 5,000 a day. And have been for a number of years, at least 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many
same.
studies that have come out over the years, recent years, about all the things that vitamin D can do, but also if you don't have enough vitamin D in your system, what can happen as a result of that as well. So I'm a big believer in vitamin D. So where can people find Scene? Again, there will be a link so that they can get more information, possibly even order some if they're so inclined, in the show notes. But where can people get it? Is it in stores or strictly online at this point?
We're primarily online, so that's at www.scenenutrition.com. There's 2 N's in the middle there. So primarily online, and we have started to expand to be available in certain providers' clinics. So menopause physicians carry our chews. We have some at endocrinology offices, rheumatology offices, physical therapy clinics, and we're in some select independent pharmacies throughout the U.S. We're going to be doing more of that in the year to come, but right now, primarily online is where you can find us.
Oh, that's wonderful that you're also expanding into the offices of healthcare providers that really specialize in women's health. That's really wonderful and very smart too. So what's next for you? Are you thinking about some kind of an extension of product offerings?
Yeah, it's like you read my mind, Barbara.
What's coming up?
Our big vision at Scene is that we become the place that women go to find food first supplements for bone health. So right now, obviously, we started with calcium, but we do want to expand that. So hopefully in the fall, we come out something in iteration where a big bone health nutrient is vitamin K2, specifically MK7. It's another one where it's really hard to consume enough in our everyday diet. MK7 is only naturally present in select fermented foods that we don't usually eat. So this is a great place to supplement. And so we've been trying to source the high quality ingredient that provides MK7. And hopefully we can expand our offering, maybe even provide like smaller doses of calcium chews. I don't want to give away all my secrets.
No, of course not, because you have to have a reason to come back again and tell us what's new and what's about to come out.
And also lately I've been obsessed with prunes. The studies
Let's talk about prunes for 1 second.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been many studies in recent years about having, I forget the number, maybe you can tell me, between 4 and 7 prunes a day have been able to supplement bones. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of fascinating research. This is all still relatively new too, within the last 10 years, but the research that's coming out is really compelling because there aren't really a lot of downsides to prunes.
No.
So the one major prune study from Penn State, it was looking at what does consuming 4 to 6 prunes a day and 10 to 12 prunes a day and not eating anything do to our bones. And they were specifically looking at postmenopausal women. I think the
Yes.
average age was around 52. So they looked at bone density at 6 and 12 months. And then they also looked at bone turnover markers to see how those would be impacted. And they found that, well, they couldn't actually draw any conclusions from the 10 to 12 prune a day group because
Right.
there was too high of dropouts. But from those that ate 4 to 6 prunes a day, their bone turnover markers improved, meaning the balance between building bone and breaking down bone improved. And then they also had sustained their bone mineral density. Whereas the group that didn't eat prunes, their bone mineral density declined.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not earth-shattering, but if you can
that
do
is so
anything,
important because as
Yeah.
you know, when you're a postmenopausal woman and you've already gone through menopause and you've had the drops in estrogen and your bones are naturally getting weaker from both age and drops in estrogen, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
And maybe you haven't been doing all of those bone building activities like
Mhm.
heavy lifting and the like. And maybe you haven't been taking the C nutrition chews.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe you haven't been doing everything right for your bones. And yes, they can start to decline. I mean, my personal goal now
Yeah.
is to maintain my bones where they are. Because again, I have low bone density. It'll be really hard for me to go backwards and really build a lot of bone.
Mhm.
I think I could do that with some heavy lifting and some other new science that has come out, of course, but
Yeah.
that's not really my goal. My goal is to not get osteoporosis, not to continue on that path. And
Mhm.
so things like the tools, as I view them, like your chews and certain exercises and having prunes, these are all tools that are
Exactly.
very accessible,
Yeah.
right?
So
That can help
accessible.
our bones,
And
science
again,
backed.
there's not much downsides to eating
No.
I've been doing it and they're delicious. Like dried prunes, they get so small. Like
Yeah,
it's
but I
just
could see you definitely creating something with prunes. In fact, when I first started talking with you and first was looking at the ingredients, I thought
Yeah.
for sure there must be prunes in there. I was surprised. And
Yeah.
also they're sweet, so they're very edible. But, having
Yeah.
too many, like the 10 to 12 prunes a day group, they might have had a little stomach upset. But I think, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like there is a limit as to how many prunes you can eat a
Exactly.
day and be happy. I'm
I
comfortable.
think that's a good point that everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation, for
Let's not
sure.
overdo it. And the key point is what can you do today that you can do 10 years from now? Because that's the most important point.
Yeah, no, that's so true, and that's great. Oh, Dr. Han, this was a great conversation. It was wonderful to
Thank
speak with
you.
you again. I know that you'll be back on the show. Before I let you go, though, what are your
Yes.
top 3 takeaways that you really want everyone to remember from this conversation today?
That's a good question. So I've thought about this. I think the first thing is that start now. Start now in terms of your bone health. It's never too late and it's actually never too early either from my experience,
That's
right?
right.
Let's start thinking about our bones right now. And then that leads to my second point, which is start small. In today's world, we're inundated on social media with eat this much protein and take these supplements and do this much weightlifting and all. So it can get very confusing and it's hard to change our whole life right now. But if you can make a commitment to change one thing, I would encourage you to do that. Whether that be start to incorporate Greek yogurt 3 times a week. You can start there and then build from there. Or like we were just talking about, start eating 4 prunes a day and then
Yeah.
go from there.
That's right.
And then the third thing is, and I think we haven't really touched upon it, but get your DEXA scan. See what your baseline is in terms of your bone density. There's a lot of ways that you could get your DEXA scan covered before 65, which is when insurance will usually cover it. You could also pay a reasonable price for a DEXA scan out of pocket now. And so just get your baseline, see where you're at, because then you can start to build goals from there.
Yes, thank you for those tools and tips. I really appreciate it. And thanks for joining me, and I know you'll be back. Everyone, there will be links, as I said, to Scene Nutrition and more about Dr. Han and her background, very interesting, in the show notes. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Age Better Podcast, please do a few things. First, share it with all your friends and family. Then, subscribe to Age Better wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Finally, if you have ideas for topics you want me to cover in a future episode of Age Better, send an email to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to me on social media. Until next time, remember this: we can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.